The studio lights were blinding, but the tension was brighter. Millions of viewers were tuned in, expecting entertainment, maybe a clash of opinions, but not what was about to unfold. Donald Trump leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, grinning like a man who thought he already owned the room. Across from him sat Denzel Washington, calm, composed, carrying that unshakable gravity that made every word feel like law. The moderator barely got through the introductions before Trump launched his first jab. "You're an actor, Denzel. People pay to watch you pretend. But this is reality. And in reality, leaders don't play dress-up." The audience gasped, then chuckled nervously, unsure if it was a joke or an attack. Denzel didn't flinch. He leaned forward, his voice low but sharp. "Donald, you confuse power with theater. You sell fear like tickets, hoping the louder the noise, the more people believe you." The audience shifted, sensing the weight of the exchange. Trump smirked, waving him off. Fear keeps people safe. It keeps them in line. That's when Denzel's eyes locked onto him, steady as steel. He didn't blink. He didn't smile. He just said it, clear enough to cut the air, "You don't scare me, Donald." The crowd froze. Then, like a storm breaking, cheers erupted. Some stood. Some clapped so hard the sound drowned the mics. Trump's grin faltered, the first crack in the mask. This wasn't Hollywood. This wasn't politics as usual. This was a man daring to face down another's power without flinching, and the world was watching. Trump's face hardened, the smirk gone. He leaned into the microphone, his voice raised, trying to drown out the echo of Denzel's words. "You think this is courage? This is showbiz. You come here for applause, but I built towers while you built fantasies." The crowd split, some booed, some cheered, but no one looked away. Denzel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He tilted his head slightly, eyes fixed on Trump, and let the silence breathe before he answered. "You built towers of steel. I built trust. You raised walls to keep people out. I broke chains so people could stand free. Tell me, Donald, which one lasts longer?" The audience roared, some people leaping to their feet. Trump shifted in his chair, gripping the armrests, his trademark confidence flickering. He shot back quickly, "You're talking about stories. I'm talking about power. Power wins." Denzel leaned closer, his tone cutting but calm. "Power without people isn't power. It's just noise. And tonight, this room isn't with your noise, it's with the truth." The camera zoomed in. Trump's jaw tightened, a bead of sweat forming under the hot studio lights. The moderator tried to step in, raising a hand. "Let's keep this professional, gentlemen." But the room was already electrified, too far gone for moderation. A chant rose from the audience, low at first, then louder. "Denzel! Denzel! Denzel!" Trump looked around, his eyes narrowing, realizing the stage was no longer his. And in that moment, it wasn't politics, it wasn't Hollywood, it was history, unfolding live. The chant still echoed when Trump slammed his hand on the table, his voice booming over the noise. "Enough. This is my country. My rules. My voice." He pointed across at Denzel, his finger stabbing the air like a weapon. "You don't speak for America. You don't even understand it." The room hushed, not out of respect, but out of anticipation. Everyone wanted to hear what Denzel would say next. He sat back in his chair, slow and deliberate, eyes never leaving Trump. His reply came soft, almost a whisper, but every syllable hit like thunder. "I don't speak for America, Donald. I am America. The son of a preacher. The boy who came from nothing. The man who never forgot the faces in the crowd you ignore. I carry them with me in every word. That's not performance. That's reality." The audience erupted, not with polite applause, but with the raw roar of people who felt they'd just been spoken for. Some in the front row wiped tears from their eyes. Cameras swung wildly, capturing the electricity of the moment. Trump forced a laugh, though it came out strained. "Save the monologues for your movies. People don't want poetry, they want results. Denzel leaned forward, hands folded, eyes burning steady. Results? 12 million children losing healthcare. Families crushed under debt. Veterans begging in the streets. Those are your results. You want to talk reality? Let's talk about the people living it. The moderator shifted uncomfortably, sensing the stakes climbing higher. This was no longer a debate, it was a reckoning. And as the crowd cheered again, Trump's eyes darted nervously. For the first time, it was clear, the stage he thought he owned was slipping from his grip. Trump leaned forward, gripping the mic so tight his knuckles whitened. You think you're a hero? You think words change anything? I built an empire. I sat in the Oval Office. He paused for effect, sneering, you read lines someone else wrote for you. Gasps rippled through the audience. The insult was sharp, calculated. But Denzel didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. He waited, letting the silence stretch, making Trump's words echo back on him like an empty boast. Then, with quiet precision, he spoke. You're right, Donald. I do read lines. But the difference is, my lines inspire hope. Yours inspire fear. And hope builds people stronger than any wall you could ever lay brick by brick. The crowd erupted. A woman in the second row shot to her feet, clapping so hard her palms turned red. Phones shot into the air. The moment was already racing across the internet before Trump could even form his next thought. He tried to laugh it off, waving his hand dismissively. Hope doesn't win elections. Strength does. And strength is what I have. Denzel leaned in, his voice steady, his gaze unshakable. Strength isn't measured by how many walls you build. It's measured by how many chains you break. And tonight, Donald, I'm breaking yours. The audience roared, standing ovation, thunderous applause, chants louder than before. The camera cut to Trump's face, tight, flushed, his smirk gone. He shuffled his papers, pretending to look in control, but the damage was visible. In that instant, the crowd knew. This wasn't a debate anymore. It was a dismantling, calm, precise, and devastating. The studio shook with applause, but Trump slammed his fist against the table, demanding attention. You think this crowd decides who wins? No. Power decides. And I've had it my whole life. That's why I'll always be 10 steps ahead of you, Denzel. His voice cracked with desperation hidden behind bravado. Denzel didn't move at first. He let Trump's words hang heavy, let the cameras capture every inch of that inflated confidence. Then he leaned forward, slow, deliberate, his voice calm enough to cut deeper than any shout. Power without conscience isn't power, Donald. It's weakness dressed in gold. You built towers to touch the sky, but you never built a bridge for the people standing in your shadow. The audience gasped. Some clapped, others cheered, the energy surging higher. Trump shook his head violently, wagging his finger toward Denzel. That's nonsense. Bridges fall. Towers last. And people follow strength, not sermons. Denzel's eyes narrowed, his tone sharp but steady. Bridges fall? No, Donald. Bridges carry people forward. Towers just remind them what they'll never have. That's not strength, that's vanity. The crowd roared, a standing ovation this time, deafening. A chant began again, echoing through the studio walls, Denzel. 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 Trump's face flushed. He leaned back, tugged at his tie, his control slipping like sand through clenched fists. The moderator raised his hands, but even he knew the stage wasn't his anymore. It belonged to the storm that Denzel had unleashed with nothing but truth. The camera zoomed in, capturing Trump's jaw clench as if he knew, the night was no longer his. Trump tried to laugh, but the sound was hollow, brittle. You're good with words, Denzel. I'll give you that. But words don't change the world, deals do. And nobody makes deals better than me. He spread his arms wide, as if the audience would cheer. A few claps echoed, but they were drowned instantly by murmurs of doubt. Denzel didn't smile. He leaned back, calm, his voice measured like a blade sliding from its sheath. Deals? Your deals built casinos that collapsed. Your deals left workers unpaid. Your deals left this country divided. Words don't destroy nations, Donald. Greed does. The audience gasped, some shouting, "That's right," before the moderator could hush them. Trump stiffened, trying to regain ground. You don't understand business. You don't understand leadership. You're an actor, playing a role. Denzel's gaze locked on him, unshaken. I am an actor. And yet here I sit, exposing your script line by line. You've played the same part your entire life, the strongman. But strength isn't in how loud you talk or how high your towers rise. Strength is in lifting others when they fall. The crowd erupted, some chanting again, others pounding on their chairs like drums. Trump gripped the desk, his knuckles white, his jaw grinding. And then Denzel delivered the line that cut the air in two. History doesn't remember the dealmakers, Donald. It remembers the chain breakers. The studio detonated in cheers. Even the moderator froze, stunned at the force of the words. Cameras zoomed tight on Trump's face, flushed, shaken, a man suddenly small beneath the weight of truth. Trump leaned forward, his voice rising with frustration. You think breaking chains makes you a leader? No. Leaders build walls to protect their people. Leaders draw lines. That's why they follow me. He jabbed his finger toward the crowd, trying to reclaim them, but the applause had already died on his side. Denzel didn't rush. He sat still, hands folded, waiting until the silence was heavy enough to crush the boast. Then he spoke, steady as steel. You build walls, Donald, because you're afraid. Afraid of voices you can't control. Afraid of truths you can't silence. Afraid of a world that doesn't bend to your fear. The room erupted, cheers, whistles, shouts of agreement. People rose from their seats. The chant started again, louder, shaking the studio, Denzel. 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 Trump's jaw clenched. He leaned into the mic, his voice trembling with anger. I made America strong again. I kept people safe. Denzel leaned forward too, his voice a calm storm. Safe? Safe for who? The billionaire in the penthouse? Or the child in the hospital bed praying for care you cut away? Don't talk to me about safety when your walls trap the weak on the outside. The audience roared, a standing ovation this time. Even the moderator sat frozen, unable to interrupt the tidal wave of energy. And then Denzel delivered the blow that would echo long after the cameras stopped. You don't scare me, Donald. You never did. And the people here, they aren't afraid either. Because fear ends the moment truth stands tall. The crowd erupted again, louder than ever, some chanting Denzel's name, others chanting, truth. Truth. Trump sat back, flushed, his confidence crumbling like plaster under pressure. The studio had become a battlefield, not of fists, but of words. Trump shifted in his chair, sweat beading under the lights, his bravado slipping with each passing second. He tried once more, voice sharp, almost pleading with the crowd. You cheer for him because he knows how to act. But acting isn't truth. Acting is a lie dressed up as reality. The audience murmured, unsure. All eyes turned back to Denzel. He leaned forward, voice low, commanding, every syllable slicing the silence. If acting is pretending, then look in the mirror, Donald. Because you've been acting your whole life, acting strong, acting fearless, acting like you care. But people can tell when a man's mask cracks. Tonight, they're watching yours fall apart. Gasps broke through the room, followed by cheers that thundered across the studio. Trump slammed his hand down again, desperate to be heard, but his words were drowned in the storm of applause. Denzel didn't stop. He rose slightly from his chair, his presence towering without effort. The difference between us, Donald, is simple. I act on stage. You act in office. And when the curtain falls, only one of us is still real. The roar from the crowd shook the walls. Phones lit up like fireflies, recording every second. The moderator tried to regain control, but the story had already escaped the studio. It was already going viral. Trump's face flushed deep red, his smirk gone, his eyes darting nervously. He leaned into the mic, voice cracking, "You think you've won? You think this means anything?" Denzel met his gaze, calm as ever. "It means everything. Because tonight, people saw the truth. And the truth doesn't need walls." The crowd erupted one more time, the sound so loud it felt like history being written live. By now, the studio was shaking with energy. Every camera, every microphone, every set of eyes was locked on the clash that had swallowed the night. Trump gripped the edge of the desk, his voice raised to a shout. "You're not stronger than me. You don't have the power I have." Denzel stood slowly, his presence commanding silence before he even spoke. The chants died down. The audience leaned forward, holding their breath. He didn't shout back. His voice came low, calm, unshakable. "Power isn't yelling the loudest in a room. Power is standing when the world tells you to sit. Power is truth. And tonight, Donald, you've shown the world what fear looks like. I'm showing them what strength looks like." The audience exploded, clapping, stomping, chanting his name. Trump waved his hands, desperate to drown it out, but his voice was gone beneath the thunder. He muttered into the mic, "This is a setup, this is fake news," but nobody was listening anymore. Denzel leaned one hand on the desk, his eyes locked on Trump. "You built towers of glass, Donald. But glass shatters. You built walls of fear, but fear falls. I built trust. And trust stands longer than any building with your name on it." The crowd leapt to their feet, a wave of energy rolling through the studio. Some were chanting, some were crying, some just stared in awe. Trump sat back, pale, lips pressed thin, the reality of the moment crushing down on him. And then, with perfect timing, Denzel delivered the line that sealed the night. "You don't scare me, Donald. You never did. And after tonight, no one else will be scared either." The room erupted like an earthquake, cheers, chants, a roar so powerful it rattled the cameras. History had been carved in real time. The studio felt less like a debate hall and more like a courtroom where the verdict had just been read. The people had chosen, not with ballots, but with their voices, their cheers, their conviction. Trump slumped back, his arms crossed tight, jaw clenched, sweat shining under the lights. His smirk was gone. Denzel remained standing, not towering with arrogance, but steady with purpose. He looked at the audience, then directly into the cameras, speaking not to Trump, but to the millions watching at home. America doesn't need more walls. It doesn't need more fear. It needs leaders who will face the truth and break the chains that hold people down. Tonight wasn't about me or him, it was about us. And we don't bow to fear anymore. The words rolled through the room like thunder. The audience leapt up again, a standing ovation that refused to die down. Some clapped until their hands shook, others shouted through tears. Chants of "Truth! Truth! Truth!" filled the air. Trump muttered into his mic, his voice almost swallowed by the noise, "Pathetic performance." But the cameras weren't on him anymore. They stayed locked on Denzel, the man who had turned a confrontation into a movement, a single sentence into a spark. Backstage, producers scrambled, knowing they just captured television history. On social media, clips of Denzel saying, "You don't scare me, Donald," were already spreading like wildfire, edited into loops, GIFs, and headlines. Within an hour, it would be trending worldwide. And as the show ended, the final image wasn't Trump's scowl, it was Denzel Washington, calm, unshaken, standing tall under the lights, a symbol of defiance and dignity. The night didn't end with applause. It ended with a promise: fear had lost its grip. Fear doesn't win anymore. If you believe in truth over walls, stand with us. Hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, because we're just getting started.